Hello fellow seekers, welcome back to my channel. This is Amanda Artemis Forrester, a Rune Reader Diviner and Polytheist Mystic. And today we are talking about probably, I would say, one of the most neglected Wiccan Sabbats. That one with the weird name. I prefer to call it Lammas because it's the pronounceable name. The other name is Lughnasadh, but it's spelled Lughnasadh. And as embarrassing as it is, I actually spent my first couple of years while I was practicing, which thankfully was 20 years ago, calling it Lughnasadh. Took me a while. It's Gaelic. Gaelic is pretty hard. So this one is, there's probably various reasons why I think this one gets neglected, although it's the first of the harvest festivals. There's 3 harvest festivals. Last year I did a video, my longest video actually, on the autumn equinox. That would be the 2nd harvest festival. The 3rd would be Samhain, or what's known today as Halloween, would be the 3rd harvest festival. But this is the very first. This is as we're starting to transition from summer to fall, when we're starting to reap what we've been sowing all year long. It's also the bread festival, because it's grain that's being harvested, this would be a time to bake bread. Being more traditional, traditional is probably not the right term. Modern Wicca just tends to be very Celtic influence. And I've had no call to the Celtic deities, although I will talk a little bit about Lugh and some of the Celtic deities in this video, just as we discuss its history. But since I don't have a call to the Celtic deities, and I celebrate the Greek or Roman traditions and the German or heathen traditions, then I would celebrate Fornax, the Roman goddess of the oven. Or, as I talked about on the autumn equinox video, Demeter would be another one. So, as I said, it's pronounced Lughnasadh, but the other name, Lammas, is Old English. Literally comes from Hermes. That I hope I'm saying that right, but I don't know if the H is silent or not. But it's Hlafmaesse. Literally means loaf mass. The mass of loaves. When you would make the bread from the fresh grain and have it blessed. So, that's the other reason I like Lammas as the name. Now, the other reason it's kind of hard and a little neglected is it's got variable dates. Today, as I'm recording this, is July 31st, and it can be celebrated on July 31st, August 1st, or August 2nd. So, it's another one of those that just kind of moves around depending on what tradition you follow. I celebrated on August 2nd, so it's directly opposite of Imbolc, which is February 2nd. So, yes, that would be Groundhog Day here in America. But if you think about it, Groundhog Day is as pagan as it comes, guys. You're letting a little furry mammal predict the weather for you. That's weather divination. But that's neither here nor there for this. A heathen-flavored Wicca, or a heathen version of this, would call this day Freyfaxi. Now, the actual time of Freyfaxi, which would be the time of the harvest in Iceland, would be later in August. It would be August 19th to 23rd. But depending on your area, you can move to wherever the harvest is. So a lot of people would consider this Freyfaxi. Frey, of course, being the brother of Freya, the god of the grain in heathen culture. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Lugh. Lugh is a solar harvest god, but that's what he's usually remembered as now, but it looks like he may have originally been a god of human skill, kind of like Hephaestus in the Greek pantheon, a god of crafts, but he was also a god of kings and a patron of heroes. So some people believe that this is celebrating Lu's marriage, which in ancient world, kingship. Kingship was legitimized through marriage to a woman of royal lineage. It was the woman who legitimizes the man's right to rule, because the woman was connected to the land that she was from. It wasn't until the Middle Ages that you get women being basically traded like horses to go far from where they're from. Men would actually travel to another country or wherever, and if they won the right to become king through contest or whatever, or through proving their feats, and if they won her hand, then they could become king. But the women did not get traded to another country in the ancient world, because they were intimately connected to their land. They were symbolic of the goddesses, and so the women would stay where, I don't want to say where they belonged, because that sounds very sexist, but it's in an animist culture, they are connected to their land. And in a very, we're actually very nomadic people these days. We don't think of ourselves as nomadic. But the amount of times that we move, and I've moved more than most, but the amount of times that we move in modern society is, like, not imaginable to our ancestors. Not imaginable at all. We may have more stuff than our ancestors, especially our nomadic ancestors, but we're still pretty much nomads. We have very little connection to the land, and that's sad. In the ancient world, the three pillars of polytheist practice are the gods, the land, and the ancestors. But anyway, I'm trying to talk about this. I could go off on rants for a long time, and I'm trying to make these videos shorter instead of 40 minutes long. I should probably just pick a theme and let myself rant for some videos. Polytheist rant. Whatever. Anyway, older than the wedding feast of Lu, it was actually a funeral feast for his stepmother that he instituted after she died. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name. I'm sorry. It's again, Gaelic. This one I'm not even going to try. But she died of exhaustion after clearing the fields of Ireland for agriculture. The feasting, games, and sports were instituted in her honor. Legend has it that her gravesite, you can still visit it, is in County Meath in Ireland. So that's it's something that there's still big festivals there every year. And I wanted to read this from the book about Lughnasadh. See, I almost pronounced it the old way. Sorry if it shook. My dog just jumped up on the bed. It may seem odd to us to have a fair near a gravesite, but such locations seem to have been preferred. The Lughnasadh fairs were typically held near the burial mounds of mystical female divine heroes, such as Carmen or Talisu. Again, Gaelic, I'm sorry. An old poem that speaks of the fair of Carmen does well to illustrate the significance and appeal. The renowned field is the cemetery of kings, the dearly beloved of nobles' graves. There are many meeting mounds for their ever-loved ancestral hosts. To mourn for queens and for kings, to denounce aggression and tyranny, often with the fair hosts in autumn upon the smooth brow of noble old Carmen. And this is still a time of festivals in our culture. We tend to have like county fairs and 4-H fairs. So this is a good way to celebrate this weekend would be to go to any of your local fairs. Just do it in kind of a sacred mindset, I guess would be the way to put it. Do your cleansing, do your prayers, leave an offering. Obviously, I've already mentioned baking bread. Berry season. This is berry season. Take your kids berry picking, and then share your harvest. Protection magic was widely practiced at this time, but the more I research, it seems like there's never a bad time for protection magic. Pretty much every major festival that I can see, there's at least a little aspect of protection magic. And the reason for that is when we're stepping into sacred space, we're kind of bridging the gap between our world and the spirit world. And protection magic is something that you want in that case. You definitely do. And I feel like I could just go on and on. Alright. Yeah. This was not one that I actually celebrate very much, although I actually do try to, I'm at least wearing yellow, which is the color of the sun and of the harvest of wheat. But I actually try to keep it in my consciousness. This is the season, it might seem like the sun's out forever, but the days are actually starting to get a little bit shorter now. We're moving into the dark half of the year, where the next major Sabbat is going to be the equinox, when the day and the night is equal. And I probably won't make a video for that, or if I do, it won't be as long as last year's, because I've already covered that one. Alright, in Roman practice, tomorrow, August 1st, there was a temple to spies, which means hope. It now lies under the Church of St. Nicola, and it was dedicated in Rome during the Punic Wars of the 4th century BC, although the worship of hope is much older. There was a public rite to her on this day at the temple every year. She is often referred to as Bona Spies, or Good Hope. If things are bad right now, pray to the goddess spies so that in the future they will not be bad, is a Latin proverb. In art, she's usually shown with an opening flower while she lifts up the hem of her skirt as if she's in haste to flee. These images are appropriate since hope can be fleeting. And this is from the Classical Living book that I'm always recommending. Hope is something that we all need all the time, pretty much. And if we're not living, I mean, hopelessness is one of the biggest signs of depression, right? You gotta have some hope that you're making life better. And hope, Bona Spies would be one of the what is considered a personification of an idea or an ideal. Or, from another way of looking at it, you could think of it as just one of the simple spirits of a energy. Personificating an idea is kind of more of a human way of looking at it, and if you're looking at it from more of a spirit-centered way of living, these energies existed before us, and we just happen to eventually find names for them. So, like I said, I don't always have, like, huge rituals for everything. I'm actually getting ready for the Pagan-themed, which will be, it's a week-long festival, but I don't actually celebrate it for a week. I've already set up a altar for it, and I'll make a longer video about that. That's more of a big deal for me. I don't celebrate every single Wiccan holiday. But I just thought that I would share a little bit about this, and pretty soon, hopefully that Pagan-themed video will be coming out next week. And I have daily prayers I do every day, which is only about 10 minutes before I leave the house, so before I go to work. And I would just add a short little prayer to hope. Tomorrow would be the way that I would add that acknowledgement for this day. And so I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or anything in particular that you would like to see, let me know. If you prefer the longer videos to the shorter videos, let me know. I've gotten some feedback that some of my videos, despite being well researched, are really long, and some people don't like sitting through them. But the thing is, I prefer the long ones anyway. I used to teach a class on this stuff, and those were usually about an hour each, sometimes much longer. And I kind of think we live in a soundbite culture where this ancient knowledge is supposed to be dispensed into a few sentences. Well, you can't. you cannot pack mysteries and ancient knowledge into a few sentences. So I'll try to make some shorter videos, but I'm not going to stop with the long ones either, because I really prefer to get deep into these subjects. There'll probably be some sort of series, and the reason this one is short is because I don't really do that much for Lammas. I try to keep it in my consciousness and be aware of it, but it's just not my cup of tea. So, I hope this has been informative, and keep your eye out for the Panethenia video. I'm almost running out of time on my phone anyway, because I've got too much on here, and I'm going to have to clear it out before I make the next one. So, have a great day. Keep worshiping the gods, and keep your mind open. Skål!